Hi, 5th grade. Welcome back to history. This video is for May 5th. Today we're going to look at two very important gentlemen who helped the South rebuild after the Civil War. But before we do that, I want to read a verse to you from Galatians chapter 6. I know you just went through this with Mr. Poole in Bible, but this verse has always been a favorite of mine. Verse 9 says, "And let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." One of the gentlemen that we're going to read about today talked about the benefit of hard work. And the Lord is reminding us here that even when things become difficult and we might feel like we're the only one doing the right thing, we're the only one still following the Lord, He's saying, don't give up. Keep going. Just keep doing the things that God wants you to do. Keep being a light that shines for Him. Keep following after Him. Keep showing His love to others, because we will reap a harvest if we don't give up. So let that be an encouragement to you today. So we're in chapter 14. We're just going to read the first few pages of that chapter. We're not going to go into the whole chapter. But the two men that we're going to read about today, Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver, were instrumental in helping the South rebound after the war. So follow along with me, page 223. Chapter 14, New Frontiers, Rebuilding the South. After the Civil War, much of the South was desolate. Many farms had been ruined. Worst of all, millions of slaves had been freed but left with no jobs, no property, no homes, and no education. Two African American men spent their lives trying to improve conditions for the blacks in the South. The first was Booker T. Washington. Booker grew up with a deep love of learning. As a boy, he taught himself to read by using an old battered copy of Webster's blue-backed speller. Booker was tremendously excited when he heard that a teacher was coming to his town. That first day at school was one of the greatest days of Booker's life. Booker continued to learn. When he was 15, he left home to go to a school named Hampton Institute. It was there that Booker learned to love the Bible. He also learned many skills. And you can see the picture of Booker T. Washington at the bottom of the page. The caption says, "Booker T. Washington, the great educator who founded Tuskegee Institute." So he may have started from very humble beginnings, but God used him in a mighty way. Let's go on. In 1881, a town named Tuskegee in Alabama asked Booker T. Washington to teach school there. Washington was thrilled. His own school building, his own books, his own students. But when Washington reached Tuskegee, he received a shock. There was no building, there were no books, and there were just a handful of students. So Washington went to work to build a school. He worked harder than he ever had before in his life, but he didn't mind because he knew that his hard work was worthwhile. Nothing ever comes to one that is worth having except as a result of hard work, he said. So the things that we work hardest for are the things that mean the most to us, don't they? The Tuskegee School started out in a leaky, ramshackle old building, but it grew rapidly. More and more black students came to be taught by Booker T. Washington. Washington wanted to teach his students that they should work hard to support themselves. He and his students worked to plant a garden at the school. They used the crops for food and sold whatever was left over to get money for books. When more buildings were needed, Booker taught the students to make bricks and build their own buildings. Each extra bricks were sold to get money. The school, which came to be known as Tuskegee Institute, prospered and grew. It still provides excellent training for men and women. So that school still exists today. And you can see the picture at the bottom of the page. It's now called Tuskegee University. In 1896, Booker T. Washington was looking for a good chemistry teacher for his school. He wrote a letter to a man who had just earned a degree from Iowa State College and invited him to come down to Tuskegee for a lifetime of hard work. The man's name was George Washington Carver. Carver was not at all afraid of hard work. He had been born a slave to very kind masters. He was fascinated by nature and taught himself all about the plants of the forest. His knowledge of trees and plants amazed his teachers in college. He decided that he could put his knowledge to good use at Tuskegee, so he accepted Washington's invitation to teach there. George Washington Carver amazed the world with his accomplishments. It seemed that he was a genius who could do anything with plants. He studied the chemistry of plants very thoroughly and knew what could be done with them. For example, he found 118 uses for the sweet potato. I only know one thing to do with a sweet potato: cook it and eat it. I don't know how he came up with 118 things to do with it. He made flour, starch, paste, vinegar, ink, rubber, chocolate, dyes, all from sweet potatoes. From the peanut, he made over 285 products. I mean, peanuts, what, you either eat them out of the shell or you mash them up and make peanut butter. I don't know. These products included milk, butter, cheese, candy, coffee, shaving lotion, lard, soap, shampoo, and ink. Can you imagine? All from peanut butter or from peanuts? Once Carver served a delicious meal to a group of visitors. After the meal, the guests complimented Carver on his cooking. Only then did Carver reveal that all the food in the meal had been made from peanuts. That's just so amazing. We do not remember Carver simply because he stayed in his laboratory and did amazing tricks with peanuts and sweet potatoes. He did far more valuable work when he helped poor farmers in the South become prosperous. For years, cotton was practically the only crop planted by Southern farmers. But cotton wears out the soil and makes the soil unable to grow crops. Carver found crops that helped the soil, and he traveled around the South convincing farmers to plant them. He encouraged farmers to plant peanuts, which nourished and enriched the soil instead of wearing it out. He urged farmers to grow soybeans. Today, a crop of soybeans is one of the most profitable crops a farmer can grow. Years and years of growing cotton had exhausted the soil and had made Southern farmers poor. George Washington Carver encouraged farmers to plant many different crops and helped the South get on the road back to prosperity. So these two men, Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver, did an amazing job with helping the South get back into a way of life that could be prosperous for the people living there. God truly blessed the South with these two men. So next time we're going to fill in a study guide to help you get ready for our test that will be coming up on Friday. Thank you for watching the video and have a great day.